All right, what up, y'all? AWB, I'm back at it. We're getting ready to check out the 10 most incredible escapes caught on camera, and this is from North Korea. Let's get into this one.
Due to the nation's setup and military control, it is hard to find out what is happening between the country and its citizens.
Put a one in the
nuclear
chat.
weapons arsenal is the only thing widely known in conjunction with the nation, but a lot is one of the most repressive nations in the world. Due to the nation's setup and military control, it is hard to find out what is happening between the country and its citizens. Its nuclear weapons arsenal is the only thing widely known in conjunction with the nation, but a lot is going on behind the scenes. Being a totalitarian nation, it has forced some citizens to escape the country, with many even risking their lives in the process. Some make it out alive, while others aren't so lucky. Here are 10 of the most incredible escapes from North Korea, the world's most repressive country. Number 10. Soldier escapes while pursued with bullets. This happened in November 2017 with the son of a North Korean general, Jong Song. Song himself was also a soldier in the country's military, and the time of his escape was so unbelievable as, according to him, he did not have any intentions to escape when he woke up that morning. While growing up in North Korea, Song's father was a major general, so he lived a comfortable life until a sudden decision was made that forced him to run away from several bullets. It all started when Song got into trouble with his friends. To get his mind off the incident, he decided to go for a couple of drinks at the bar. After having a fun time with some beers, he got back into his car and started driving back to the military base. As he got closer to the military base, Song was supposed to stop at a checkpoint, but he broke through it instead. That was where the race for survival began. He realized this because he could be punished severely or even imprisoned for such a violation. And being in a drunken state, the only thing that made sense to him was to put the pedal to the metal, which he did just after breaking through the checkpoint. Immediately, other military officers also got in their military vehicles, hot on Song's pursuit. Song himself, having hit the gas pedal to the limit, was moving at a very high speed, which almost complicated matters as he crashed into a ditch. By this time, the border was close, so Song ran the rest of the way to the fence while the other officers were hot on his trail. He made it across the border regardless, but not without a parting gift of 5 bullet wounds from his military friends. Due to the bullet wounds, Song became unconscious but was found by South Korean soldiers who took him to safety and a hospital. After he recovered, Song was glad he escaped, saying he had no regrets about leaving his country. Number 9. North Korean elite escapes on a raft with his friend. Although military officers escaping from North Korea is rare, some still happen. In fact, this escape we're about to discuss is about a former North Korean spy who defected from the country with his friend on a raft. While he was in service, Chul Un-lee worked for something that can be regarded as the National Intelligence Service and was part of the people responsible for monitoring over 1,000 people through informants. And as a member of the elite, he had access to whatever he wanted and had unique credentials that enabled him to travel around North Korea with no issue. But as he kept working, Chul Un-lee saw his country's status and could not continue with all he saw and how his government operated. Then he found a reason to escape when he interacted with a South Korean organization that came to deliver rice for charity and to prevent starvation in rural areas. At that point, Chul Un-lee talked to them about life on the other side of the border. That way, he devised a plan with his friend and began planning their escape. Since Chul Un-lee was stationed in South Hwanghae province, it wasn't ideal to go all the way up to the Chinese border because it would have looked suspicious to his colleagues. His friend also could not travel north, so they thought about traveling through the Yellow Sea. The distance of the Yellow Sea being 3.7 miles, the duo decided it would be okay to escape through the Yellow Sea instead. Sadly, they had no access to a boat and couldn't raise any suspicions. This made them resort to swimming across the sea. Once ready with food and other supplies, they got into the water and started swimming. 2 hours later, it was becoming tough for them, so they threw all their food, shoes, and pants off and continued to swim. They also had other issues, especially when they noticed a patrol boat. They were scared for their lives as they didn't know whether they had crossed the country's border, and if North Korean officers found them escaping, they would be shot on sight. Since the patrol boat was moving towards them and it had no flag, they hid out of fear. Then, due to the weather conditions and having swam in the sea for hours, they couldn't continue swimming any longer. With barely any clothes on, they discovered some plastic on an island and some old wooden pallets and transformed them into a makeshift raft by tying them with styrofoam. On this raft, they stayed for hours before the South Korean officers found them and kept them safe. Unknown to them, they had survived the terrors of the Yellow Sea, crossed the border long ago, and had been in South Korean territory. Number 8, Ji Seong-ho escapes on crutches. Escaping North Korea takes a lot of effort, as the 2 escapes before this clearly show. Whether driving, swimming, or walking, it takes a huge amount of effort and zeal from a person to escape. But imagine if someone escaping from the world's most repressive country was a disabled person. Well, one person that dared such an attempt was Ji Seong-ho. Ji Seong-ho's story started in 1996 when he was a teenager. At that time, North Korea was in a deep state of famine and its citizens were starving. This devastating famine caused Ji and his siblings to eat grass and rats to alleviate hunger. This was unhealthy for them, so Ji went to source more ways to get actual food and something better for the family to stay nourished. For this reason, he opted to try and steal some pieces of coal from a train, an event he would remember forever. As he tried to steal the coal from the train to trade it for food, he passed out from hunger and was hit by a train. As a result of the accident, he became disabled. That event made life even tougher for him and his family, but he didn't give up in the course of finding a greener pasture. Ji managed to escape the walls of North Korea, and he made the breathtaking 6,000-mile trip across the Tumen River into China and eventually moved down to the country's south and walked into Laos and then Thailand. From one country to another, a total exhaustive trip of the 6,000 miles he made on crutches. From there, Ji was sent to South Korea and was fitted with a prosthetic arm and leg.
Think about how much suffering you have to have gone through and witnessed to be this driven to get away.
Event happened roughly 2 decades ago, and now Ji works with other North Korean defectors to help transmit information into the reclusive state. He was also invited into the Capitol in the United States by Trump, where he told his story and also showed the crutches he used while escaping from North Korea. He keeps the crutches as a symbol to remind him of how far he has come over the years on his journey to freedom. Number 7, Jo Song Gill. You can't blame the people who defect from North Korea to other countries, because even top officials in the North Korean government are also running away from the totalitarian state. Jo Song Gill is a top official who defected.
And you notice a lot of these people are they're in the government, they're in the regime, as they call it. And the only reason that they even have a chance is because they're where they are. But you talking about regular people, everyday people who aren't in their government or regime, virtually impossible.
From North Korea to other countries. Gill was a top North Korean diplomat at the North Korean embassy in Rome, where Jo was employed as acting ambassador. He was the acting official until his tenure was almost completed in 2018. Then he disappeared with his wife. For almost 2 years, his whereabouts were unknown. This puzzled the entire country, because if he wasn't present at the Rome embassy, where could he be? The military officials searched for the couple until South Korean lawmaker Ha Tae-kyung confirmed reports that Jo had defected to South Korea in 2019. There have been numerous requests for information, so here it is. It is confirmed that former Ambassador Jo Song Gill entered South Korea in July last year and is under the government's protection, Ha wrote on his Facebook page. With this defect, Jo is the government official with the highest profile to have defected from the totalitarian regime since Youngho, former deputy ambassador to the United Kingdom, fled to South Korea in 2016. How it all happened remains a mystery. Italy has...
Yeah. So you got, and the people at these levels in the government in North Korea, they have the best lives of everyone in the country. Like, they are right there under, the king. So you got to think, people who having a lifestyle that's 1,000 times better than most other citizens there, but it's their lifestyle is just like right under the king. but they still escape. So that says, that speaks volume to me.
Has been without a North Korean ambassador since Pyongyang's former envoy was expelled in 2017 following the country's sixth nuclear test. Jo joined the embassy in May 2015 as the third secretary, according to statements from South Korean lawmakers. When the diplomat fled, even the Italian Foreign Ministry was surprised at such a development. Their statement said it had gotten a notice from the North Korean embassy that Jo and his wife had vacated the embassy's premises. 4 days later, only Jo's daughter returned to North Korea, together with some female staff from the North Korean embassy, after she asked to be reunited with her grandparents. Turned out that Jo and his wife defected after all, and the news was not announced until 2 years later. Number 6. Jong Min Woo. While some citizens and officials had to risk their lives to survive and escape successfully from North Korea, some defectors had mutual agreements to leave, such as Jong Min Woo. Jong Min Woo was a soldier in North Korea before he defected, and the way he escaped is quite thrilling compared to the rest we talked about earlier. When Jong Min Woo decided to leave, he announced his wishes to the guards at the border that he wanted to leave the country. He was able to leave without hassle or injuries since they were all military men. That was how he began his journey. Jong Min Woo made up his mind to leave while on duty, so he left North Korea in military uniform. As a refugee, it wouldn't be proper to keep wearing the uniform around, as other countries' military may see things from a different perspective. So when he got to Thailand, he borrowed some clothes from friends he had there and kept his uniform safe in a bag. He kept it tight in case there was going to be a need to return to North Korea, as a military uniform and ID card are valuable assets in the country, enabling them to do almost anything. In North Korea, Jong Min Woo wore his uniform daily, even off duty, just to retain the sense of respect awarded to military officers from civilians. Otherwise, someone could steal a cigarette from him or attempt to pick a fight. He wore it so much he couldn't wear ordinary clothes anymore. However, that had to change when he got to South Korea. When he got there, he had to hand over his uniform to the South Korean intelligence just to be certain that he truly defected and wasn't some kind of spy. However, he was able to get another uniform, the summer uniform made of cotton. Jong Min Woo wears the uniform whenever he appears on Now on My Way to Meet You, a talk show where people from North Korea reflect and discuss their experiences. Number 5. Park Hyon Woo. The story of the Park family is an entirely different dimension compared to others. 26-year-old Park Hyon Woo and his father had been constantly pressured by the North Korean military since his mother and sister left. Since then, father and son had been continuously threatened and harassed by military officers. However, things like that can only be endured for a while, with the father and son getting sick. So on the night of February the 7th, 2017, 26-year-old Park Hyon Woo and his father decided to leave their home in the North Hamgyong province of North Korea for good. They didn't intend to raise any eyebrows that could lead to alarms, so they left home at different intervals to avoid suspicions. After leaving their house separately, they planned to meet later at night, which they did at the semi-frozen Tumen River, a river that borders China and North Korea. Park Hyon Woo and his father and his family were not suffering in any way. As a matter of fact, they were living a very comfortable life with no troubles by North Korean standards. Even though both father and son worked for the railway, 26-year-old Park Hyon Woo and his father were always sent money by the rest of the family through a secret network, so they were comfortable. Anyways, they began making their trip with a flash drive with all the pictures of all the information they couldn't take along with them. The duo also had a small part of rat poison wrapped in plastic and placed in their mouths in case they were discovered. With those two with them, both father and son got to business, and they began making their way across the icy water as they crossed the water in search of freedom. That trip was not as easy as they thought it would be, or as easy as it sounds, because as they walked, their wet clothes began to freeze, but they kept going. They eventually crossed the border, and on getting to the Chinese side of the river, one of their sisters had been waiting for their arrival. Once united, the three snuck under a fence and took a waiting van to a safe house. It was at the safe house that Park Hyon Woo and his father burned their clothes and buried their North Korean leader lapel pins. Good riddance to bad rubbish after all. Number 4. Noom Sock. Noom Sock is one of the most surprising defections done by an official in the military. Noom Sock is a Korean-American engineer and aviator that served as a senior lieutenant in the Korean People's Army Air and Anti-Air Force during the Korean War. During the tribulations of the Korean War, Noom Sock applied to be an officer in the Korean People's Navy. He was accepted after he lied in the selection test. He lied about not having any experience, but still found help in the form of his history teacher, who guided Noom Sock in the pilot selection test. Noom Sock aced the test, and shortly after passing the selection test, he was promoted to the rank of ensign. He was also brought to Manchuria for flight training, and he quickly rose to the ranks of lieutenant and then to senior lieutenant. He flew more than 100 combat missions during the Korean War. Noom Sock's defection from North Korea happened on the morning of September the 21st, 1953, when he flew his MiG-15 from Sunan just outside Pyongyang to Kimpo Air Base in South Korea. The time from takeoff in North Korea to touchdown in South Korea was 17 minutes, with the MiG reaching 1,000 kilometers per hour. During the flight, North Korean aircraft did not chase him as they could not catch up with him. He was also not intercepted by American air or ground forces because the US radar near Kimpo had been shut down temporarily that morning for routine maintenance, just in time for Joe's defection. Fortunately for No, he landed the wrong way on the runway, almost hitting an F-86 Sabre jet, landing in the process from the opposite direction. It turned out to be double luck for Noom Sock, because if he had landed the aircraft in the right direction, he would have been spotted and shot down immediately. Happy with his escape, Noom Sock drove the MiG aircraft into a free parking spot between two Sabre jets, jumped out of the plane, and began tearing up a picture of Kim Il-sung that was placed in the cockpits of North Korean aircraft, and then flung up his arms in surrender at the approaching security guards in the airbase to reaffirm that he meant no harm. Number 3. Song By-ok. The story of Song By-ok can be said as saddening and also motivating. Song By-ok and his father had initially tried crossing the Tumen River in 2000, but his father drowned as they crossed through. Due to the famine in North Korea at the time, they just couldn't stand it, so they waded into the water to find ways to get food. But he and his father were from a town further inland, and they had no idea about the river level, but they had to cross it anyway. As they began the journey, By-ok took off his clothes and tied them to a rope to hold them together. Then he told his father never to let go. As he approached the middle of the river, the strap felt lighter, only for him to look back and see his father drifting away. By-ok tried to save him by alerting the North Korean guards to come help him, but they didn't listen. Instead, they handcuffed By-ok to torture him. He was jailed for 4 months in Chongjin prison camp. After By-ok was released from camp, his determination took straight to defecting, which he did successfully. Number 2. Kim Ryan-hui. Kim Ryan-hui is one of the patriots that North Korea has. It is rare to see some escape from North Korea and also see them want to return to the country willingly. Her saga started when she went to China for some treatment in 2011, and she was surprised to see that there was no free healthcare. To pay her bills, she started to take up a few jobs till she met a broker that smuggled North Koreans to the south and assured her that she could get more money in South Korea and be able to return and pay. Just as Kim Ryan-hui stepped into Seoul, she was ready to leave Seoul and find her way back to North Korea. Her decision is not a facade, as it caused a lot of sensation among the media and even officials. North Korea has asked for her return, and South Korea is very skeptical of such a decision out of fear that she will try to travel back to North Korea through China. Kim Ryan-hui's main concern for the past 7 years has been trying to reunite with her daughter and husband in Pyongyang. She's been trying all means to get her wishes by speaking on talks. She also sends petitions to the United Nations, telling them that she is a stranger trapped in another man's land. Number 1. Whole family escaping. At times, it's proper to search for...
That's some serious brainwashing. But, if her wanting to return to her family is... you can kind of understand that. I don't believe that she wants to go back to the conditions that she was living in, but to be taken away from your family, she just wants to be returned to her family. Now, if her family came with her, then I doubt that she would be saying she want to go back there.
Greener pastures if there is no hope left. The earliest statement is about why a South Korean Navy ship discovered a 5-ton wooden boat carrying 22 North Korean defectors across the West Sea. They were seen from some 38 kilometers south of the northern limit line, the de facto maritime border, 41 kilometers west of Daecheong Island. The 12 male and 10 female defectors included 8 children, including 3 under 10, according to a South Korean security official when he was analyzing their information. But to cross that bridge with that much water is just amazing. Only a few North Koreans dare to escape across the sea because they must be ready to be adrift. According to the Unification Ministry, 112 North Koreans fled from the seaport of Nampo and 334 from South Hwanghae province, which borders the West Sea, by late last year. They accounted for a mere 2% of all 21,294 defectors who had gotten to South Korea as of April this year. North Koreans still continue to defect, and we will continue to update each incredible escape. Of all the ones you watched today, which ones caught your attention?
It's a reason why people want to escape North Korea. So I was looking up. I appreciate everybody for checking it out. If you can become a member, go ahead and join us. I'm looking. The goal is 100 memberships. And yeah, with that being said, AWB, I'm out. Appreciate y'all.